what I find interesting in mental health is you do not only work with the individual, but you work with the whole family. And a whole lot of things about mental health is about behaviors and attitudes, which comes with people's culture.
Malolele and warm Pacific greetings. Welcome to the podcast on the Diary of an Island Scholar. Today we have a special guest with us. I won't talk about too much about him. He can do that himself. He's the master of doing that. And so this time I'll hand it over to my special guest for today, Dr. Sione Vaka, to kindly introduce himself, the islands he represents, and also his current role at the moment.
Malo, Edmund, and thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Sione Vaka. I'm from Tonga. I'm from the village of Lapaha, Longolongo, Lofanga, Neafu. And I grew up in Tonga and then migrated here to New Zealand, working. My background is in nursing, mental health. So at the moment, I'm currently working for Auckland University of Technology as one of their lecturers there. So it's quite... very, very thankful for the opportunity to be here and talk with you about our journey. Yeah,
nursing, mental health, two interesting fields, particularly for males and in particular Pacific males. Why nursing? What got you excited about nursing?
That's when we grew up. I was born and raised in Tonga. There's not many opportunities in Tonga after high school. Never really wanted to be a nurse. But after high school, the opportunity that came up was from the Teachers Training College. So we went there. And there were advertisement that they're starting male nursing. So me and a friend, we went into nursing for the wrong reasons, really. So we went there. We thought it would be lots of girls there, and also looks pretty cool having stethoscope on our neck and stuff. But I never really wanted to be a nurse. We went there because that was the only opportunity growing up in Tonga. But entering the health profession, we saw the opportunity, the bridge. The gap that we were able to bridge. There were a lot of health issues our men were not comfortable disclosing to women, and they came and talked to us, and then we felt that So I enjoyed nursing. I enjoyed working with people, and I enjoyed learning about people's lives, their social health, and the whole things that they came with. So, and then after 1 year at the nursing school in Tonga, I was very lucky to get a scholarship to come here to New Zealand to study. So that was my first time away from Tonga. Never really speak English or anything like that. It was a whole shock. But came here, study undergrad at AUT. Was a real struggle at the time because I had to learn English as a second language together with the nursing program. But fortunately, managed to pass those stuff and then stay there. Yeah, but that's how I ended up in nursing. So it was not something that I want to do as a child. But I'm very, very fortunate that I picked that profession and been working there up to now. So I really enjoyed it. I think my journey have come a long way, and it goes to show how I love the profession and the work that I've been doing. So I've been staying there. Yeah.
I won't ask what happened to your friend, because since there was two of you. But going back to your time in Tonga, you mentioned there's some of our Tongan males did not want to share information with the Tongan female nurses. What were some of the health issues that our men were facing back in Tonga when you were a nurse?
There were all these illnesses like heart disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure and everything. But some of our men, there were some requirements in the health system where they need to be taken off their shirt and disclose some of those sensitive health issues. They were not very comfortable doing that with women. So when they saw us that we work at the hospital, they always call on us, and they waited for us to come to the shift, and they call us to come and do those things as well. So, and some sensitive health issues, which they are not really comfortable sharing with women. They like to share it with us as well. Yeah, and you probably know in our Tongan culture, men and women are very sacred, those relationship there. And they were more able to share it with us, I guess.
That's the nursing area. Mental health. How did you arrive at this very topical theme?
One of the things that I like about mental health is like, in health, you focus so much on the individual. What are the deficits? What's wrong with the individual there? What I find interesting in mental health is you do not only work with the individual, but you work with the whole family. And a whole lot of things about mental health is about behaviors and attitudes, which comes with people's culture. And I enjoy that part. The other part of health is quite too technical. You go in for a broken hand, you put them under the x-ray, you try to locate what's wrong, and then you fix that part. Whereas in mental health, it's a whole lot of things that you work with around there. And I think one of the things that I find really fascinating is seeing someone who comes very unwell, and you work with them for a length of time, and after that person change. Different presentations, they are much more better in terms of how they think, how they cope with life. Not only that, but you get to know their whole family and kainga in that perspective, and I find that very, very rewarding. So it's quite fascinating in a way, because a whole lot of that space is not really black and white stuff. It's a whole lot of grey that you explore. And not only that, we have our own constructions of mental health from Tonga. In Tonga, when someone becomes unwell, we tend to think they're being possessed by the spirit, or they probably done something wrong in the society. And they have their all different ways of interpreting mental illness, and different from the Western ways of doing things. So I find it quite interesting and fascinating that I'll be able to contribute introducing our ways of constructing mental health and mental illness to this Western space.
Have you? What's the experience to date in regards to when you are addressing different perspectives of mental health, particularly from a Tongan and Pacific perspective, to your to the non-Pacific or non-Tongan colleagues that you work with? Have you received any pushbacks or opportunities? Or
there's always challenges, and there's also people who take it they're very welcome to the idea. And I think some of the people who are finding it quite challenging, because health is being dominated by the biomedical framework and how we look at health from that perspective. And there are people who have been working in that system for a while, and they see that it hasn't worked, and they are struggling because they've been putting the same framework, same model to our Pacific people, Tongan people, but it doesn't really work. So when I present my work and the ways that I've sort of find in terms of my research to them and say, that's okay, you guys have been working on this part here. How about this idea here? Look, consider it from this point. And those people are much more open to the idea. But I think one of the things, Edmund, that I'm really, really passionate about is we have been trying to define Pacific health issues with non-Pacific tools. And it doesn't really make sense. Not only that, we try to manage those Pacific health issues with non-Pacific tools. So what I'm trying to do is trying to define those Pacific health issues with Pacific ways of looking at things as well. And not only that, introduce Pacific solutions to those spaces as well. So, but like I said, it's very challenging for some people, and some people, they're quite open-minded to that one as well. And it's quite interesting as well, because you see that a lot in terms of different discipline. Sometimes medical doctors, nurses are very, very clinical focused. People like psychologists coming from a talking therapy sort of perspective, psychotherapy from their perspective. So it's different discipline, taking the idea quite differently. Yeah? But in saying that, it's I'm very, very happy that there are people who welcome the idea and pick it up as well. Yeah.
We'll talk more about some of those key strategies that you're developing at the moment, and these tools that are specific to our communities and peoples. Going back to the nursing experiences, when you first told your parents that you were entering the nursing field, knowing it's predominantly females, and obviously you just mentioned here that you entered for a different reason, what was the reaction like?
I think it was a bit of a hard. It was challenging probably for my parents to take that, simply because in Tonga, like, men are supposed to do hard jobs. And it's very, very strange for a young fella to pick up a women's job, and it's pretty new in Tonga back in those days. And for a while we used to be like not call our nurses our names, but call nurses. You walk down the street, hey, nurse, like nurse in Tonga, and people make fun of you, call you like different women's name because you're doing women's job there. But throughout time, my father have accepted it, and I see it in his eyes. I mean, it's quite interesting. My relationship with my father is very different from my relationship with my son now. Like, me and my father, we don't really talk to each other, but I know he loves me so much. So, and I could see in his eyes that it was hard for him to accept his son taking a women's job, and also people in the village making fun of his son. But I think throughout time, I could see in our family gathering through our Whatafa family with the extended family and stuff. I could see that he's very proud of saying this is what I do and the success that I have. So but at the start it was hard.
If you're just tuning in, welcome to the podcast, The Diary of an Island Scholar. My special guest today, Dr. Sione Vaka, and it's a privilege to have this amazing expert in the field of nursing, mental health, and also Pacific research. And it's safe to say that he's also Tonga's first male nurse in history. So this is a plug to all you students and people who want to get into the field. If Sione Vaka can break the barriers in Tonga, in a society that's very hierarchical and gendered, and get into these spaces, then you can too. So again, it's an honor and a blessing to have you here. A question that I've asked everyone to date, and everyone's got different reactions to it, regarding their journeys, is who is your motivation? Who has motivated you to become the person that you are today?
I think, I know the people that motivated me are my grandparents and then my father. It's quite interesting that that journey, I've always looked up to them, and my grandmother, who value education and church. Those were the two things that she valued. She installed it in me, and also my grandfather loves arts and music, and he always does it to the best of his ability. So, and some of the stories that they told me about how they grew up and the challenges that they go through and things in them, and it always inspires me for the journey. So those are the people that sort of.
If you had the opportunity, I would like you to look down this camera and picture your grandparents standing behind that camera. And if you had the opportunity to say whatever you would like to say to them and making you the person that you are today, what would you say to them?
It's say malo apito ofa mo to. Yeah, I probably say that, but one of the I've always felt them on my shoulder wherever I go, and one of the probably a bit different, but one of the example that I've defending your PhD, defending your PhD. I've sort of defended my research there quite okay, I think. But in terms of the last question, one of the things that the examiner asked me was like, where to from here? And that moment, I sort of realized that part of the journey has finished. And I wasn't able to answer the question quite clearly. And there were like tears coming from my eyes and stuff. Because I could feel them, that they were happy. And they were with me that in that particular moment. And I think that's part of the stuff that I know that they're always with me. Although they're not here, but I know wherever I go, they're always here with me, watch over me. And I think it protects me from whatever I do, because if I want to do something, they always say, what would they say to me? And their names are always ringing in my ear. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for installing all these values and good things for me to be where I am today. Yeah,
amazing. So you touched on the PhD, and like obviously, it's a big step from the practical side of nursing to carrying out and conducting research with people. And so, if you can, before we go into the PhD, what does your diary look like as a scholar at the moment in the field of mental health and nursing? From the time you wake up to the time you get home, what does your day look like?
It's pretty full on. With and what I've realized now, it's the day are not really long enough for the task that we are supposed to complete. Sure. And I think part of it, with COVID now, everything's shifting to online. You run and do the things during the day, and there's online meeting at night as well that goes very, very late and stuff. So my days usually involved lately with research and other work with the university during the day, supervisions and other stuff. I don't really do much teaching at the moment, but involve a lot with doing those research tasks and things as well. And then after that, like when you finish from university, there's your community initiative that you have, community involvement stuff that you have to do, like going to, and part of those work is promoting mental health, promoting art and culture. Like at the moment, we are having some Tongan men learning about some of those, preserving those Tongan arts and music. So those stuff as well. And there are also other stuff in the evening involved in governance stuff, board trustees. And you probably relate to that. But yeah, it's pretty full usually. Eh?
So for those who are tuning in, and if you want to get a PhD, this is the kind of life you'll be living. At times it's more service and conducting research on the side. It can become quite challenging. Your PhD topic, what did you explore?
As I sort of mentioned before, my topic was exploring the constructions of mental illness, from mental distress, from a Pacific perspective, but focus on Tongan people. So that was the idea. And this came about because there was findings before where we found that the prevalence rate for mental illness was higher for Pacific people compared to the general population. We don't go to the mental health services, which is quite concerning when we have high prevalence rate, but we don't go to the services that are provided. So we should ask the question, where are they going? Risk of developing mental illness for people who are born here in New Zealand were a little bit higher. We're higher compared to those who are born in the island. They migrate here. Suicidality in terms of self-harm, we're high Pacific people. So in terms of us getting all those figures and us trying to ask some question there, but in terms of talking to our community, they sort of explained to me, we don't understand mental illness, mental distress, what are you talking about? So there was, it opened my eyes, because I thought I've been working in health for all these times, but quite interesting when we talk about depression, we have our own interpretation. Our people have their own interpretation. So it was an opportunity to have a bit of a stop and check, what is the meaning of mental illness for Tongan people? So there was the focus that I had there.
What is the meaning? What's the Tongan or Pacific concepts that you have heard within our communities that defines the likes of mental health, depression, anxiety.
So what I did in that study was collecting all the terms that the Tongan people explain mental illness, and they come from very, very different perspective. And unfortunately, and I do apologize in advance, some of those words have very negative connotation, and mental illness is quite stigmatized and discriminate in a lot of ways. So I do not really want to make this so that we start building that stigma, but it's just talking about the finding that I find from that study. So we have words like avea, which is like obsessively thinking about something, then you go away from what you usually do. You have avanga, you're being possessed by the spirit. Have de'ia and all those sort of words around there. And there are some more words which develop later, which has much more negative stuff. Hufanga pe whatapu, it's like hange koe matiti, koe motu tapili. So with those words, it sort of explained that there's somehow in our lives something's wrong, and we're not really traveling in a proper direction, or we're not staying in harmony. There's some sort of tilted or bit of stuff around there. So, but there was the question that I asked. But what I found in that study, Edmund, that there's a variety of constructions in our people. Our young people with lived experience, they look at it from a much more biomedical sort of Western ways of stuff, like stress, alcohol, chemical imbalances and things as well. And our Tongan men and our community leaders, they were much more from this stuff that I was talking about, spirit, when you're not complying with the social norms and values and things as well. So all these different dynamics of constructions in our society. So there's no one way of explaining things from our Tongan people.
And so in terms of that, then, before we go into the methods and the importance of the methods that you use to conduct your such talanoas, and unpacking these very sensitive issues with our participants and communities, and touching on spirituality, what's the experience been like when you're talking to those in the field who are non-Pacific about the importance of addressing spirituality within our Pacific communities?
Yeah. So the idea, what I usually explain to some of the people about is to understand the worldviews of where we are coming from, because it can be a little bit different from a non-Tongan ways of looking at someone's health, and from a medical way of thinking. The biology is quite important, the physical part, then probably social, psychological, and spirituality is outside. But for a Tongan person, it's the other way around. Spirituality is the core. Then the layers go, and then the physical part is outside as well. So for us, social is in the core as well. And that's why sometimes we see our people before we do meetings and stuff, we acknowledge it with talotu, because that's the most important part. Not only that we acknowledge who's in the room, because there's a social level around there, then we go through that before we get to the physical part, which is outside. Whereas from a non-Tongan perspective, if you go to your doctor, they just ask you straight away, what's wrong with you? Are you here because you have a heart problem, or you've been coughing, or not really acknowledging the spirit and the social part as well. So for us, it's a bit of a journey around there. What I usually tell my non-Pacific, non-Tongan people in health, you can't really get to the physical part of a Tongan person if you can't acknowledge the spirituality, social, and this area before you get to that part around there, right? So it's quite important. Yeah.
So if you're tuning in, you're getting a free lesson of on how to engage with Pacific peoples and communities, in particular when addressing mental health and addiction issues with the expert himself, Dr. Sione Vaka. Again, thank you for taking the time out to do this podcast. Methodology. What did you use?
I use talanoa, and you familiar with Talanoa, and quite of our Pacific scholars have used Talanoa. And what I with Talanoa, I think sometimes we use specific concepts, just the names, and then we don't do justice to those concepts. And so I really wanted to give Talanoa a good go. And also, we talk about those stuff, Edmund, the worldview is having major understandings around it. We know about the word tala, like to tell, talking, eh? And the word noa, we have very little coverage of noa from our Pacific literature. A few in the Maori literature, which they talk about noa, tapu, mana, around there. But noa, how I use it, explain it in those worldview that I talk about, like the individuality versus collective, and also linear versus secular. Yeah, and what I try to capture there is that noa is a sense of harmony, where the people try to meet in agreement around there. Tala is the space where they come and talk to reach that noa. Yeah, and if you think about the worldview that I sort of talk about, the linear versus collective, and linear versus secular, and individual versus collective. So I talk about from point A to point B. As I work at the hospital, I usually work. That's a very linear and individual structure. Eh? Like I go to someone and say, "My name is Sione. I'm here to give you your injection or to check your blood pressure." Very, very straight line, individual line, point A to point B. Individual, linear. In the Tongan context, it doesn't work like that. If I go to someone and say, "I'm Sione, I'm here to give you your injection," they say to me, "What's your last name?" Vaka. "Which Vaka are you from?" "I'm from Vaka in Vava'o." "Are you related to Semisi Vaka?" "Oh, he's my uncle." Oh, then the story goes from there. So it goes in that circular and try to have that collective stuff around there. And that's, when we talk about that tala, that tala goes around in that circle before it get to that space there. And if you see there, what they're trying to get is trying to connect with you before they open up around there. Eh? If you go in your individual and linear structure, you won't get much from there. It takes a while, the talanoa, but coming to that space around there, we hear it quite a lot as well. When we talk to non-Pacific people, you ask them, "What did you have for breakfast?" They talk about probably something from the bakery. If you talk to some Tongan person, "What do you have for breakfast?" They talk about, "Oh, I went to Orahuhu, I met your cousin Joe, he came in a new car, drove down, and then we came to fishing." The story goes in circle around there. And one of the things about Talanoa as well that I talk about is how we think about our mathematical graph, the x and y axis, positive, and there's negative here, there's the zero in the middle. That's where they meet around there, right? So if you think about someone say, "We are having a family activities, everybody contribute $100 each." Someone say that's a good idea, come from the positive end. Someone say that's a bad idea because it did come from here. And they talanoa, they go around in the circle stuff until they meet that noa, and that's it. See, I think our people are very smart. They are pretty, in terms of mathematicians and scientists, because if you think about it from physics perspective as well, when opposite forces are equal, it comes to a complete stop. That Noah stuff there, which
I think we have reached a point in this podcast, Talanoa, where we have pretty much quantified the Talanoa research method in a way that now makes sense to mathematicians, to quantitative research, and also to scientists.
That's right.
So, believe it or not, there may be a paper coming your way and how we've quantified Talanoa using this XYZ linear and so on and so forth. So, and if you're getting this for free, then you're welcome.
Yeah, yes, we'll send you our bank account.
Send you that later on. Okay, universities. Now, what you working on at the moment?
So, when I was talking about Edmund before about the different constructions, of mental illness from our people. And one of the questions, so what are you going to do about it? And as I said, my work is usually trying to bring Pacific tools. So a few Tongan elders and people in our community suggested that there's a fishing framework in Tonga that we call uloa. So uloa, and you probably know that it's a fishing. I don't think we haven't been doing it in Tonga for a while, but it's a communal fishing. Everybody it done by a village, community, church, whatever community that they have. So everybody there participate, young, old, female, male. They have a role in this kind of fishing. And on the day of the fishing, everybody prepare, this is what you're going to do. And on the day that they agree, they have to all go down to the water. And it's like holding coconut leaves together. And they walk together collecting the fish to a collection basket at the end. But the idea of using uloa in terms of mental health services, it looks like all the mental health providers, the hospital, the traditional healers, our community workers, church, we're providing different services, but we're not talking to each other. But the idea here is trying to create that framework where a platform where people can come and talk to where are we having our people in terms of mental illness. So I tried that framework down in South Auckland. But it talks about weaving those different knowledge in different ways. Not only that, if you think about uloa as well, it's bringing our Tongan traditional knowledge, weave it into the biomedical ways of doing things in terms of working with our people. Because we need everything around there as well. So I completed a project in South Auckland with good outcome for our Tongan people. So what I did, I talked to people who work at the hospitals, nurses, psychiatrists, cultural worker, talk to NGO providers, talk to traditional healers, how we're going to do that. So it had good outcome. And then after that, then we were discussed with our Fijian community and also our Niuean community that they want to look at how this framework is implemented in their community, which I think it's a really good idea that they come along. Because uloa, although we have it in Tonga, but in Samoa they call it lauloa. In Fiji they call it yavirau. In Hawaii they call it hukilau. So it's a kind of fishing it's common throughout Polynesia and stuff as well. So that's the project that I'm working in now, is working on uloa, but having a bit of a Niuean and Fijian flavor into the project, which is quite good.
It's quite exciting to hear that, like you mentioned earlier, that a majority of the time where we have Pacific problems and issues, we're using non-Pacific tools to address such issues. And now the fact that you're now indigenizing or coming up with a Pacific or, Tongan way, Niuean, Fijian, Hawaiian way of finding tools to address mental health issues for our people and communities, I think it will go a long way in supporting the next generation to come, and particularly around culture as well. In terms of, we're near the end, and so in terms of where to from here, I know that you're in demand, and I know people in the organization are wanting you to be a part of their team and organization to better support the organization. But where do you see yourself in the next 10 years, other than being rich in an island?
Not sure about being rich, Edmund. But I think for me, in the next few years, what I'm keen on is the ability to give back as much as I can. But not only that, is to have the ability to grow our young Pacific scholars and empowering them to be proud of who they are and not try to think that we need other tools to strengthen what we already have. Sometimes when we do that, it dilutes our Pacific ways of looking at things. Yeah, so I like in the next few years just to be able to grow and give back, but also grow our young ones. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do, Edmund, is try to make research in mental health so sexy that people come and do more research and do mental health, changing mental health from these stigmatized ways of looking at it and how discriminated. But people to have understanding that it's just like something wrong in our journey and we can go back and into the right way. And we don't need to laugh at people who are having those issues and stuff as well. And it's doing that and also making our people come and do more research. Because, you know, if we don't do research, we're not contributing to changing the practice, then we should be prepared for non-Pacific people coming and telling us what to do. I'm not happy with that. We should be telling people what we should do to do with our people.
If you're tuning in to this podcast, we have the expert himself, Dr. Sione Vaka, and his challenge in making and addressing mental health as a sexy issue, and you know, making it in a way that brings young people in to feel safe in a space that we can provide better outcomes for our peoples and communities in the future. So, final words from you regards to knowing that there's a big push by the government to increase nursing specialists, and particularly in the field of mental health, to our people in the Pacific, in the communities here in New Zealand. What would you say to encourage them to come into the field?
Yeah, I just wanted to encourage you people. This is one of the best professions that you can pick in your life. If you choose nursing, you can practice wherever you want to be in the whole world. You can, as a nurse, not only that, there's a whole lot of different areas in nursing that you can pick. Physical health, surgery, pediatrics. And if you choose the right place, like in mental health, there are different places there, like acute mental health, community, liaison psychiatry, early intervention. There's nothing, no time that you'll be bored in mental health. It's always a very fascinating area to work in. And also, it's quite exciting to be there.
The contact details of the man himself will be on the link with the podcast. But other than that, Dr. Sione Vaka, thank you so much for taking the time from your very busy schedule as an island scholar and also a specialist in the field of nursing and mental health. So again, thank you for the time. It's a blessing and for communities to have someone like you in the field of nursing, mental health, research, education, and continue to provide better outcomes for our peoples and communities. Wishing you nothing but the best in you and your family. And remember to make mental health sexy and enroll into nursing for the right reason. And other than that, stay blessed and we'll see you in the next Talanoa. Kia ora.